Hello everyone, welcome to Heartfelt Tales channel. Today, we want to share with you a touching and meaningful story about fatherly love, courage, and the fight against school bullying. This is the story of Alex and his father, Daniel, who bravely stood up to protect his son from a group of so-called protectors at school. It's not just a story about the challenges faced in school life, but also a lesson on bravery and the spirit of family protection. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to not miss out on future videos. Share this story with your loved ones to spread the meaningful message of protection and love. Alex sat alone in the corner of his new school cafeteria, his hands clutching the edges of his tray as he stared down at the half-eaten sandwich in front of him. At 14, he had already experienced more loss than most people his age. His mother's death had left a hole in his heart, and now, with his father, Daniel, working long hours at a corporate job, Alex had no one to turn to. The transition to a new school after moving to a different city had only made things worse. The other kids were already grouped together in cliques, and Alex couldn't seem to fit in. His love for sports had once made him popular, but here, it seemed like everyone had their own groups, and Alex was invisible. Daniel, 40 years old, was a strong and loving father who had always put his family first, but his demanding job had drained much of his energy. He worked in an office, and though he was an exceptional employee, he made sure to spend every moment he could with Alex. Still, despite his best efforts, Daniel often felt disconnected from his son, unsure of how to bridge the gap between them. At home, it was just the two of them. Alex never spoke about the pain of losing his mother, and Daniel didn't know how to ask. Their relationship had become strained. Daniel didn't understand why Alex had become so quiet and withdrawn, but he knew his son was struggling. David, a senior student at the school, was known as the leader of the protectors. The group used fear and violence to control others, and David thrived on the power it gave him. At 16, he had already mastered the art of manipulation. David's reputation was built on fear, and everyone knew that crossing him meant becoming a target. His power wasn't just physical, it was mental. He could make people do anything with just a look, and the students who couldn't protect themselves quickly became part of his twisted group. Samantha, 15 years old, was the only person who seemed to notice Alex. She was kind, and they had become friends shortly after he transferred to the school. She always offered a comforting smile, but there was a noticeable fear in her eyes. Samantha, like many others, was afraid of confronting David and his protectors. She often felt powerless, too afraid to stand up for what was right. The school itself was a place that should have been a sanctuary for students, but it had become something far worse. The reputation of violence was well known, but the administration remained indifferent. The students who managed to defend themselves were often left alone, but the rest were at the mercy of David and his group. Alex's hope of fitting in had all but vanished, and the atmosphere at school only deepened his sense of isolation. It didn't take long for Alex to notice the strange occurrences around him. Whispers in the hallway, students quietly avoiding eye contact, and incidents of bullying that went unpunished by teachers were becoming more frequent. Alex had always been sensitive to the energy around him, and the silence in the school was deafening. It was as though everyone was afraid to speak out, to confront the bullies. One day, he was walking down the hall when a group of older students shoved him into a locker. They laughed and taunted him, but Alex said nothing. He just stood there, trying to ignore the sting of their words. As the bell rang, the students walked away, and the teachers who witnessed the scene turned their heads, pretending nothing had happened. It wasn't long before Alex became the target of the protectors. They had a way of picking out the quiet ones, the ones who didn't fight back, and Alex fit their criteria perfectly. It started with small things. David would pass him in the hall and give him a knowing look. The next day, Alex found his locker ransacked. The messages on the walls grew bolder, more menacing. One afternoon, after gym class, David cornered Alex in the locker room. He stood in front of Alex, blocking the exit. "You've got two choices, kid," David said with a smirk. Join us, or become the next target. Your choice. Alex froze. He had never been good at confrontation, and David's presence was overwhelming. He felt small, insignificant. I don't want to join you, Alex stammered. David leaned in closer. Then you'll regret it, he whispered, before stepping aside and allowing Alex to leave. As the days passed, the threats became more frequent. Alex couldn't take it anymore. He needed someone to talk to, someone who might understand. That's when he turned to Samantha. Samantha had been by his side since the first day, but even she seemed unsure of how to help. They're dangerous, Alex, she whispered. If you don't do what they say, they'll make your life hell. Trust me, I've seen it happen. Alex's heart sank. He didn't want to live in fear, but it seemed like there was no way out. At home, Daniel began to notice the changes in Alex. His son was quieter, withdrawn. He stopped talking about sports and even avoided conversations altogether. Daniel tried to engage him, but Alex would only give short answers. The once energetic boy who had loved running on the track now spent hours in his room, staring at the walls. Daniel knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what. One evening, Daniel walked into the kitchen to find Alex hastily stuffing something into his backpack. Daniel noticed a few bills sticking out of the wallet on the counter. Alex, what's going on? He asked. Alex froze, his face pale. Nothing, he mumbled, quickly zipping up the bag and rushing out of the room. Daniel's heart dropped. He had seen the way Alex had been acting, but this was different. He was hiding something. It didn't take long for Daniel to piece together the pieces of the puzzle. His son was being forced to give money to someone. But who? And why? The next morning, Daniel decided to follow Alex to school. He had to know what was going on. As he walked behind him, he kept a safe distance, trying not to be noticed. He had never been one to spy on his son, but he couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in his stomach. When they reached the school, Daniel saw something that made his blood run cold. David and his group were cornering Alex in the courtyard. Alex looked small and vulnerable, trying to avoid eye contact with the bullies. He wasn't fighting back. He couldn't. Daniel's heart ached as he watched the confrontation unfold. He didn't know what to do. Should he intervene? Should he confront David? But as he watched Alex's fearful expression, he knew he couldn't wait any longer. The next day, Daniel visited the school. He spoke to a few students, trying to piece together what was going on. He learned that David and his group were not only bullying Alex but also many other students. The fear that permeated the school was palpable, and Daniel knew he had to do something. He requested a meeting with Principal Reynolds. When he sat down in the principal's office, Daniel laid out his concerns, detailing the incidents he had witnessed. He presented his suspicions about the protectors and their control over the students. But Principal Reynolds only sighed. We've had issues with bullying in the past, but without concrete evidence, there's not much we can do, she said dismissively. Daniel felt his frustration boil over. You have to do something, he urged. This is affecting my son and many others. The principal remained unmoved. Daniel left the office feeling defeated, but he wasn't going to give up. He began gathering more evidence, speaking to students in secret and documenting the threats. It wasn't long before he had enough proof to take action. One afternoon, after gathering everything he needed, Daniel decided to confront David and his group. He knew it wasn't going to be easy, but he couldn't stand by any longer. Daniel marched into the school the next morning, armed with the evidence he had collected. He demanded to meet with the principal again. This time, Principal Reynolds listened. She agreed to investigate the situation and promised to take action. After a thorough investigation, the protectors were suspended, and David was given a serious warning. The school took steps to ensure the safety of all students, and the atmosphere began to shift. Students who had been afraid to speak out now felt empowered. For Alex, the road to recovery wasn't easy. He still struggled with the scars left by the bullying, but he slowly regained his confidence. He began participating in sports again, something he hadn't done since the bullying started. Daniel continued to be there for him, supporting him every step of the way. The ordeal wasn't over, but Alex knew that with his father's help, he could face anything. Together, they had faced the darkness, and now they were ready to move forward, stronger than before. The story of Alex and Daniel is a clear testament to the fact that no matter how difficult the circumstances, with love and protection, we will always find the strength to overcome everything. What is important is that we must have the courage to stand up against injustice and never let fear stand in the way of doing what's right. Especially, family is a strong support system, a priceless source of motivation that helps us conquer any challenge. Remember, every good deed, whether big or small, can change someone's life. And if you feel strong, don't hesitate to stand up and protect those you love. This story also serves as a reminder of the importance of supporting each other through tough times. Thank you for watching. We wish you all the best and always remember to protect your loved ones.